All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ignite 2.0. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Brett Matsura. I'm the CEO and team leader over here at Keller Williams in Irvine. Today, we're going over Ignite 2.0, which is Spark number 2. And it's all about lead generation and how lead generation is the goal, or not the goal, but the core of your business. Now, the goal of Spark is for agents to get a listing appointment. And we want to do that within 2 weeks. And if you get that within 2 weeks, what that does, it sets you up for signing a contract within that first 30 days. Now, how does that make sense, right? If you're setting up an appointment, very rarely are you able to, unless you pre-qualify and you just have everything dialed in perfectly, then a lot of times you're going to have an appointment and then there's going to be some lag time between then and you actually sign an agreement. So when we say that we want you to go on an appointment within the next couple of weeks and have a signed listing agreement within 30 days, we can do that within 2 days. We can do that in 30 days. Both those things have to happen within that period. And that is what our goal is. Now, in order for you to do this, you're going to need to work your business every single day. And the way that you're going to work your business is by building your database. Not only are you building your database, but you're practicing your scripts, you're contacting prospective clients, buyers or sellers, and you're getting to know the market. And the way that we get to know our market, if you've been anywhere remotely close to me, or if you watched the prior module on this, it's all about getting to know the market by previewing property. And if you do those 4 simple activities, you work on your business every day, you build your database, you practice your scripts, you contact, leads, your buyer and seller leads, and you preview properties, then just by doing those 4 simple activities within the next 30 days, you've established your core activities and your habits that will literally last you your entire career in real estate. And that's what's going to get you guys kind of moving forward. Now, does anyone know the secret of being successful in real estate? The secret to being successful in real estate is that there is no secret. And that's because success leaves clues, and we know exactly what successful agents do every single day. And it comes down to 2 different things. Number 1, over here, you have grow your business, right? They're lead generating for buyers and sellers. They make seller listing presentations and they get listings. They make buyer presentations and they get the buyers, and they preview real estate. That's what you do to grow your business. Now, the other thing they do is they run their business, right? They market their seller listings. They show buyer houses. They negotiate contracts. They manage the transaction to closing. They manage the vendors. Now, the vendors being inspectors and appraisers and such, people who you have to utilize in order to get the business done. They're setting goals. They're managing risk management and compliance, make sure everything is done correctly. They attend training and get coaching, and they manage their finances, right? So those are the 2 main categories of what successful agents do every day. So what we're going to be focusing on today are the skills needed to lead generate for the buyers and sellers. So as you can see, our major focus just in today's program is to lead generate for buyers and sellers. Now, this training is going to be about 45 minutes, 60 minutes long. However, that is just for the instructional portion of this. Part of Ignite, part of Spark, part of those daily habits is that you should be spending a collective of at least 3 hours each day. Number 1, building your database. Number 2, practicing your scripts. Number 3, generating leads. And number 4, you're adding new business into, learning the market and going back to those activities, right? So those are the 4 things. So this is instructional, but you should be investing another 3 hours at least daily on the practical application of it. Now, again, today's training is the lead generation model. And I want to talk about how this lead generation model fits within to the big picture. And as you can see on the slide here, the big picture is understanding the lead generation model provides a larger vision of interconnected tasks and habits and how they help you fund your big why. Now, your big why is what we talked about in module 1. And as we look at the reasons, why to use this, there are 2 main reasons why this lead generation model is important for your business. Now, first, you can see the big picture on how these pieces all help you achieve your end goal. And just so that we're clear and we're on the same page, your end goal is not just to close a transaction. Okay, your end goal is getting to your big why. And that's what we spoke about in module 1. You see, closing a transaction equals earning a commission. So closing multiple transactions means earning multiple commissions. And earning multiple commissions equals achieving your financial goals. And achieving your financial goals is what is going to fund your big why. Now, second, you're going to see how each of these modules are built upon themselves, and you're going to be able to see how your business is affected if you're not focused on each section of the model. Now, for example, if we look up here, without prospecting and marketing, you're not going to have any leads. And if you have no leads, you have no contacts. You've got no contacts, you don't get any appointments. And if you don't get appointments, well, you're not going to get any listings or buyer contracts. And no listings or buyer contracts means no closed deals, and no closed deals means no commission. So it is a snowball effect, right? This is a complete lead generation model, but it kind of breaks it down step by step for you guys. So if you guys have the workbook, if you guys downloaded that, then you're going to want to turn to page, I believe it's number 4 in your guide, and it's going to have this lead generation model for you. In this training, we're going to focus on the lead generation as a solo agent. Now, nothing in this model is theory. Everything in this training that we're going to be going over is 100% backed by research that's been conducted in real time, up to date, for the new edition, the second edition for Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And as I said before, success leaves clues. So there are literally thousands upon thousands of real estate agents who are succeeding at a very high level that are using this exact model. And if thousands of other agents are succeeding at a very high level using this exact model, then there's reason to believe, there's scientific reason to believe that if you just follow this same module, then it will work for you too, right? If it works for 1,000 people, then if it doesn't work for you, it's not the 1,000 people, it's not the model, it's you and the way that you've implemented it. But the way the model is broken down is that you can evaluate every single section and and see what's not hitting. Right now, the model is broken up into 3 different parts. You can see here on the side, you've got lead generation right here. So if we drew a line straight here, we've got, this is the part of the model where you're going to be focusing on generating leads through both prospecting and marketing. Now, some people might not know the difference of prospecting and marketing, so I want to take a second just to define it. Now, prospecting are the activities of getting out there and finding business. I relate this to hunting. Now, there's a show on, I think it's on History Channel. It might be on Nat Geo. It's called Life Below Zero. And if you've ever seen that show, it's about some crazy people who decide to live up in the northern part of Alaska where it's super cold, and they're really living a life of seclusion. But the reason why I bring this up is because it seems like every summer, all they are is spending the entire summer, which is like 2 days in Alaska. Actually, I think it's like 2 months, 2 or 3 months. But they spend their whole month, whole summer preparing for winter. That's it. And then the whole winter, all they do is just suffer. So I don't want to live like that. But the reason why I bring that up is because you can see how they break things down into two things. They hunt, they're getting out, they're grabbing the rifle, they're going out and they're hunting for that next kill, right? They can't just go to the grocery store like us. In fact, something breaks down, they got to call a plane in to take them out. But then you also see that they're not just hunting, they're also trapping, right? They're setting traps. And so when we're talking about prospecting, I look at prospecting as both hunting and I look at as trapping. Hunting being that you're going out and searching for something. You're going out to find it, right? You're going out there to find that next seller. You're going out there to find your next listing. You're going out there to find the buyer. But then there's also the marketing part of things, which is trapping, right? You're attracting people to reach out to you. Now, we're not going to go into it too deep today, but if you really think about trapping, you've got to have to know what it is that you're going after. You're not going to set a bear trap for a rabbit, right? You're not going to set a rabbit trap for a bear. And you're not going to put out a big lunk of meat that would attract a bear for a rabbit. You've got to know who your ideal client is and who you're attracting, because that's the bait that you're going to put out so that you can snag them in the trap. Yes, it sounds a little bit unorthodox by me looking at that way. But if you look at these two activities as hunting and trapping, it makes a lot more sense, right? You got to have the right bait. Number one, you have to know what it is that you're going to try to capture. You have to have the right bait for it, and you have to have the right trap for it too, right? A little string snare that's tied to the end of a rock and a twig is not going to stop a bear. Not that I've seen anyone really hunt bear for food. I'm sure there is somebody that does it. There's easier things to do. But that's the way I see prospecting and marketing. Now, the second part of this model, as you look at this, is your database. And your database is literally your long game in your business. And your database is going to become your most valuable asset in your business. I promise you. Now, there's for those of you that are in our office, you guys know Dale Shima. He's our broker of record. He actually founded this office. He's been in the business for 35 years, and he has a database like this big, like bigger than this big. The guy wakes up and gets deals. But it didn't start out that way. He started the database out just like anybody else with one person, and then he fed that daily over time. So your database is going to be your most valuable asset. And that's what we're really focused on, is building out your long game. Now, your database in of itself is broken into two main categories, and that are your leads right here. These are people who you're having like one-way communication with, and it's broken down into your contacts, which are people that you're having, interactive two-way communication with. And those are really the only two kind of categories that you're going to have. Now, your objective for the database, or actually in business, is to stay top of mind for your leads and your contacts so that they know of you when they are looking to actually transact, when they're looking to buy or sell. Now, the way that you're going to do that is you're going to do that through multiple different channels. Telephone calls. I said it. Telephone calls. Nobody likes making those telephone calls. No, nobody likes making cold telephone calls. I don't like making cold telephone calls. Do I do it? Absolutely. I do a lot of it. But if there's a way that you can actually warm up a call, I do that a lot too. But anyways, you're going to be using multiple different activity channels like phone calls, letters, written letters. Some people might think of that as a lost art. Most people, when they get something in the mail, all they do is get bills and junk mail. How nice would it be that they actually get a letter? And written letters, event invitations, throw an event, invite people to it. Text messages, you got to be careful with text messages. if you guys are like me, or actually we just got through the most election season, and I don't know about you guys, I got the most text messages ever in the history of any election. Now, it's easy for the lawmakers because what they did is they made it legal for lawmakers and politicians to cold text us. Not so much for us. So you got to be careful with that. But there is a use for text messages. And that's one of the channels that you want to use. Basically, what I want to share with you is, the days of just using the telephone, the days of just knocking on your door, those are both the days of the open house that have become somewhat non-existent. Those are traditional sales activities that have always worked and I believe will always work to some degree. But there's a lot of different channels that you can actually utilize now to generate leads and to generate contacts that you need to work. You need to look at your business as a mixed martial art, and by having a balanced business, right? Don't go too top heavy in one thing. As that old saying goes, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. I did that once. I had all my business in one section and it suffered. Now, that was a long time ago. I don't do that anymore, but learn from my mistakes. Now, I would always say, if you guys have heard me talk, I always say that I would rather be popular than good. Now, honestly, I'd rather be great and popular, but if I was going to choose one of the two, I would choose popular, because the reason why I'd choose popular is because if nobody knows who you are, there's a 100% chance that you're not going to get the business. Now, you might not be that good, but as long as somebody knows who you are, you at least have a chance, right? So when people ask me what's more important, leads or skills, I actually say that lead generation is the most important thing, is to have leads, because if you have a lead, at least you have a chance of getting business, right? You could be the best person in your business. You could be the best real estate agent on planet Earth, but man, if nobody knows who you are and you don't have any leads, really, actually, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't have any leads, then you're not the best salesperson on planet Earth because you don't have any leads, right? Boy, did I just connect a dot. But you guys get my point. I'd rather be popular than good. Now, the goal here is that someone in your database, or right here, when we get into section 3, we have, your sales pipeline, is once somebody in your database raises their hand and they're ready to say to you that I'm ready to buy, I'm ready to sell. And if we're not going to look at those the same, right? It's more important to have a listing than it is a buyer. But in your database, just because somebody contacts you and you're focused on listings and they say, hey, I want to buy a house, you don't say no, right? You don't say, right now I'm only concentrating on listings. You don't say that. So when somebody raises their hand, you simply put them into your sales pipeline, and the sales pipeline is meant to nurture and qualify the candidate. And then it follows you through the same course. You go to cultivate, you nurture them, you qualify them, you go on an appointment, right? You put them into an active listing, you sell the listing, you put it under contract, you go through the escrow period, you close the deal out, and then you're done, right? No, you're not done, right? Because after the transaction is closed, you're going to take them and put them right back into contacts. Now, up until this point, they may have started out to become a lead for you, and then you went through it, they responded to you, you connected with them, you cultivated them, you got an appointment, you listed their property, you sold the property, you closed the property. But it's not done there. Remember, we're all about building your database. And so we're going to put them right back up into here, into this contact, and we're going to rinse and repeat. We want more deals, right? We want to be their real estate professional for life. And the way that you do that is by putting them into the database. The fact remains is that if you did a good job for them, you've earned their business and you've earned their lifelong business. The NAR says, I can't remember what the specific ratio is or statistic is. They say that 99% of all statistics are made up on the spot. And I don't want to do that, but I do know it's like more than 70% of homeowners polled said that they would use their prior agent again if they stayed in contact with them. And this is one of those plans. This is one of those things that I failed miserably at when I was new to the business. I sold a lot of houses, didn't have a database. I read the book, just didn't do it. I just kept on going. I had so much business coming in. It just kept going. But that's where you live by, or you learn from my errors. So, but anyways, moving on. Let's break down the lead generation section. Okay, prospecting and marketing. Oops, I think I'm on the wrong slide here. Nope, go back here. So prospecting and marketing brings leads and contacts into your database. Your business should be prospecting based and marketing and technology enhanced. And your lead generations efforts will never stop, right? You don't lead gen one day and you're like, whew, I'm done. I can go have a pina colada and I can take the rest of the year off. Now, there are a lot of real estate agents who actually do that, because in the MLS, the active MLS, 42% of the active MLS has not sold a transaction in the prior 12 months. So there's a lot of people who aren't doing lead generation. There's a lot of people who are not operating their database. And there's a lot of people who just aren't in it to win it like we all are, right? So we want to be in it to win it. Now, the question is, what is lead generation? The way I define lead generation is it's the life of your business. And quite honestly, as I said before, it should never stop. The lead generation is both purposeful and intentional. You don't wake up and lead generate by accident. Never happens. Never has happened. And lead generation moves you closer to your goal and is part of the bigger strategy that we've discussed. Now, the first part of lead generation that we talked about right here, this section right here, is the prospecting and marketing activities. As an active lead generation, as you do your active lead generation, you're putting forth the efforts again as a hunter to go out and find the business, and marketing is to attract that business. And the whole goal is the same thing, is to capture those, right? Your prospecting is lead generation and marketing is lead generation. And both of those have the same objective, is to capture that lead. So for instance, you might be calling out on for sale by owners. You might be calling out on expired listings. You might be calling out geographic prospecting, calling around just listed and just solds, but you're calling out to find motivation, find people who are looking to sell. But once you capture them, you're going to be putting them into your database, right? And the same thing holds true with marketing. A balanced business has both a marketing component and a prospecting component, and both of which should be generating leads. So when somebody responds to your marketing efforts, that's when you've actually captured theirs. So at this point, I want you guys to go to page number 5 in your participant guide. And you should see something that looks like this. Now, every real estate agent who's active in the business, who wants to do this as a full-time job, you need to have at least 3 to 5 different lead generation sources. And all of them are going to break down into 2 main categories: marketing and prospecting. Now, as we kind of go through this, we want you to be a prospecting-based and marketing-enhanced agent. Being one or the other never works, right? If you're 100% prospecting, what that means is that once you stop, your prospecting stops, your lead generation stops. You get sick, too bad. That affects you. You want to go on a vacation? No vacation for you, right? You've got to accept the fact that with just a prospecting-based company, all you're doing is dialing for dollars. You're not really building anything. You're not getting that freedom that you're all looking for. You're working all night, every night, on the weekends, and on vacation. I've done that. I'm not proud of it, but when I went on my honeymoon to Paris, because of the hours, I was still working in the evening on my honeymoon. I've made up for it since, but still, I don't want you guys to do that. But the here thing that you need to look at on marketing, right? Marketing is money intensive. If you don't have the funds to do a marketing campaign, now's not the time to do it. It's passive. Passive meaning that you're not going direct. It's a passive activity that is meant to just run its course, and you're focused on long-term results. Now, if you look at all three of these together, when it comes to marketing, has a little magnet, you're attracting. It's like what I talked to you about earlier about trapping. You have to have the right bait, but you also, before you go and get the right bait, you have to know who your who is. You know, what is it you're going after? Who is it that you're going after? And then come after the bait. But then you also have to be, it's money intensive. You can't just do one postcard and expect it to work. You know, I have this story when I owned a real estate brokerage in Utah, and an agent came up to me and he was going after he wanted to go after the luxury component. And he came back to me with this great idea, and he showed me this postcard. And I got to tell you, it was the ugliest postcard I've ever seen. It was the small postcard. It was bright yellow, and all it did was just have type on it. That's it. And he was going after and I remember looking at him. I said, who is your ideal client? Like, who are you going after? He's like, now in Utah at the time, luxury was like 350,000 and above. So that would be equated to like a $1.2 million house here in Southern California. But he said that he was going to attract, and he printed like 5,000 of these. And I'm like, you're kidding me. You're actually going to print that and you're going to send that out. He goes, yeah. And I said, do you think that you're going to get a lot of luxury? He's like, yeah, if I just get one person that calls me on that, then it's going to pay for the program for like the next, probably 100 years. And I said, it's not going to work. He's like, yeah, it's going to work. I'm like, no, in fact, do me a favor. Please don't put the company's logo on that. I said, he's like, really? I said, yeah, it looks horrible. I said, you're not going to get any person on that. He's like, I'll bet you. I said, you'll bet me what? He's like, I'll bet you that I'll get at least 2 deals off of this. I'm like, I'll take that bet. And the bet was that if he got 2 deals from it, then I was going to have to reimburse him the cost of his postage and his mailing. And I can't remember how much it was. Doesn't matter because I won. He didn't get one single person to call him or do anything off it. Oh, and it was flimsy paper too. It wasn't even like, there was nothing nice about this marketing material. But his frame of mind is that it was so ugly that people would find that it was so ugly and that they would call him on it. And my rebuttal to him was, it's so ugly that I don't even want to align my company's brand with you. And I don't think that you should align yourself with it either. But he tested it. I was proven right. And it kind of ties into this, right? You have to know who your client is and then what bait do they want. But you also have to have the money, the resources to do it long term. Because maybe it would have worked if he would have done that more than once, but he only did 1 mail drop. Instead of doing one big drop of 5,000, he should have done 10 drops of 500 for the remaining year. Then he probably would have won, because anything done consistently will eventually work. Notice how I said eventually. I wouldn't call anybody. That card was so hideous, I wouldn't call anybody. But then let's go at the prospecting. One of the things I like about this pyramid is that it shows you really how much effort is, right? It's marketing. I look at this more as time. There's bigger amount of time on prospecting. So when you look at it, it's time intensive. It takes a lot of time. Look, guys, we're operating on an analog channel. If you were calling people prior to, I can't remember when caller ID came out. It was like in the 80s. But caller ID, telephone prospecting was much more effective pre-1980s than it was in the middle of a pandemic in 2020. And why is that? Well, number one is technology. You see, the caller ID has literally just demolished telephone prospecting. It's not now, telephone prospecting is effective. It's just not as effective as it once was. And because it is not as effective as it once was, it takes much more time to actually do it. It's proactive. This goes back to hunting, right? You're going to be proactive. You're going to get up and you're going to go find it. You're not going to wait for the rabbit to come into your trap. You're going to grab your rifle and you're going to go out and hunt it. It doesn't have to be a rabbit. It could be, anything you want, but you get my point. It's proactive. And number 3, it gets you immediate results. It gets you immediate results. And that's the key thing about prospecting. And this is the important thing about making sure that you have a balanced business. See, we know that prospecting will get you immediate results because if you talk to, let's just do the math. Some of you have heard this before. If you talk to 10 people a day for 5 days, that's 50 people. And that's a week. Well, 50 times 4 is 200. If you're working 10 months out of the year, 200 times 10 is 2,000 contacts. Now, going back to the who, you need to make sure that they own a home and they live in your market area. And you're going to call them up and ask them if they want to sell it, right? But you could see that the amount of time that it's going to take contacting 10 people a day, depending on who you're contacting, could be an hour, hour and a half a day, could be 2 hours a day, depending on the technology that you're using. Now, to market to those same people once takes you about 20 minutes to drop something to them, but the collective effort's not going to help. But if you do a combination of both, say, for example, you're prospecting, you're calling around just listed, just solds in a geographic area, and you supplement that with your marketing efforts, your technology efforts, that's where the complete business comes in. Moving on to the next slide. In the next part, I want to talk to you about your database, and I want to talk about your database being managed in Command. Now, before we go any further, it's important that everyone truly understands the purpose of having a database. Now, everyone at Keller Williams has access to Keller Williams Command. And part of Command, is its database platform. Now, I want to share something with you guys. The Command technology is great technology. It's not about the technology, though. You could use any technology. I don't know why you'd want to go and spend for something for additional. You can't buy this platform. You can only be associated with Keller Williams to have access to this platform, and it's all inclusive, all in one, and it's running the entire Keller Williams International. It's all inclusively connected. But the thing is that with the database is not necessarily the technology, it's actually just using it. Okay, now what is a database? Well, first, a database is a tool. It's a tool that centrally stores your clients, your leads, your contact information, and it allows you with one place to update everything, right? You don't need to have, so you have your app on your phone, you have access to your database. Your computer, you have access to your database. Your neighbor's house on their computer, you have access to your database, right? It's a centrally stored location. Everybody's using it. I use Google Drive all the time. I use Google Photos. I use Apple Photos. I mean, I have all kinds of crazy things going on. I use Command. There's a Market Center Command version that allows it to be used for recruiting. I use it for that. So first, again, database is a tool that helps you keep everything organized and up to date. And second, it's a tool that helps you nurture and manage your relationships so you can also track your interactions with them, track your notes. I can't tell you how many times I call up people and I would, hey, so-and-so, I haven't talked to you since last July. Do you remember talking to me? Yeah, Brett, I do talking to you. Well, when we talked last, my notes here show that you said that it was okay that I would be able to call you back at this same time because you were looking to do something. And I wanted to follow up with you. Did I catch you at a bad time or do you have a few minutes to talk? I wouldn't have known that if I didn't have a database. And if I didn't have them in my database, I wouldn't have any note. I mean, I used to keep the 3x5 cards. The problem that I always had with 3x5 cards, and I'm pretty analytical. I'm pretty good at things, but sometimes, look, I still do it. I still have notes on spare piece of paper. Now, those notes are also in my database, but your database is there to track your interactions so you can actually, stay in tune with your people in your database. A well-tended database will produce you lead, and it will also produce you a predictable flow of leads. The reason why I say that is throughout time, this is a true number. No matter how big your database is, you will, if it's properly maintained and you properly market your database and you work your database, 6% of your database will turn into direct business or referral business. 6%. So now you guys are starting to see why I mean that it's a long game. Because if you have a database of maybe 10 right now, well, that's not even going to get you a deal, right? But if you have 100, that gets you a half a deal. No, that's 6. Sorry, 6 deals. 10 gets you a half a deal. 100 in your database, properly worked, right, will get you 6% direct business or referral business. So if you have 1,000 people, if you spent 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years to get a database of 1,000 tight people in your database, that's a lot of business a year, guys. I mean, that's something to be proud of. And that's where your business takes off, right? It's not the destination, it's the journey, right? Everybody wants to get to the point where they're closing 50 transactions a year, but it's not getting to the 50, it's how you get to the 50. It's getting to 5, it's getting to 10, it's getting to 15, it's getting to 20. That's how you're going to get to scale up to your 50 units a year. Now, if we look at this whole section right here, your database is the second segment of the lead generation model. And this is how and your lead generation model, as you look right here, your prospecting and marketing, it is what feeds your database. Now, the command platform automatically segments your database into these two categories, leads and contacts. And they're segmented separately because you're going to be working with them separately in different ways. So leads over here, you have valid contact information and can have a one-way conversation where you are seeking permission. Let's think about that. You're having a valid contact information and you can have a one-way conversation where you're seeking permission. Let's look at this as you got to have permission to have a two-way conversation. A lead is somebody who you haven't talked to, someone who you don't have a relationship with. You walk across, they might be someone who owns a home. They might be someone who lives in the area, but you don't have any way to tell. And until you know if they're looking to sell the home, that's not a lead, right? But you don't have permission. You're not having that conversation with them. Now, contacts, you have valid contact information. So that's the same, right? You have their email, you have their phone number, you have their address, you have their name, but you have received permission to have a two-way conversation with them. Now let's think about this. What are some of the contacts, leads / contacts that you can think of? What kind of leads? Let me share some with you. Neighborhood or geographic farm information. We just talked about it, right? People who own a home, they live in your area. They could be leads. They don't turn into a contact until you actually contact them, but they could be a lead. Social media followers, people on your LinkedIn contact list. Those could all be leads. Now, contacts, the biggest form of contacts is your sphere of influence. Your family, your friends, your neighbors, people who know you, like you, trust you. Your friends, I think I'm probably going to ruin this, but Jim Rohn used to always say is that your friends are the ones that know everything about you and they still like you. That's what a friend is, friend and family. Former coworkers, maybe people from school, teammates. Those are all people that you have a relationship with, contacts. And the nice thing about a contact is that the information or the contact is implied. The two-way communication is implied. So that's the difference between leads and contacts. Now, as we dive into this section, the most important part of having a successful database is to establish consistent and purposeful communication. Now, consistent and purposeful communication. And the way that you do that comes down to touch programs. In Command, it's called Smart Plans. Now, technology has made it easy over time to do this. I remember back when I first started into the business, I couldn't automate everything. I mean, there had to be an manual component to it. Now, you could have had some sort of automation, but back then it cost an arm and a leg because it's not as prevalent as now. But you want to have an automated system. I remember my expired listing program. What I did is I had 5 different postcards that once an expired listing came out, of course I would call them, but every single day I would drop in the mail a postcard to each unique expired. So over the course of 5 days, they would get 5 different postcards. And it drove them nuts, but they knew who I was talking to. But can you imagine, on day 1, it was pretty easy. I just take the 5 cards, put mailing labels on it, boom. But day 2, wow, it gets more gnarly. Day 3, and then trying to keep track of that as time went on, it was really, really difficult. I did it. I had an assistant, but it was challenging. It took 10 times the amount of time and cost than what it probably does now. Now, there are 2 main different types of smart plans that all of you should incorporate. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just take this and run with it. Now, I've always said that always touch out with a phone call. You should be talking to people quarterly, 4 times a year. More, if you have more contacts, then the better. But 4 times a year. Just do it every quarter. On a lead, you're doing a 12-touch campaign once a month. It's a monthly email. Could be a newsletter, market report. I'm a big fan of video. Now, for those of you that don't know, video is 50 times more likely to appear on the front page of Google. So if you go big on video, yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's not easy, but it has a bigger reward, right? Successful people get really, really good at doing the things that nobody else wants to do. So for leads, though, you should have a 12-month touch campaign, at least have a monthly newsletter. What's going on with the market? That's at a bare minimum. You can do it every month. The market changes every month. The market changes for us right now during COVID. It changes like the hour, but you can do something once a month. 2 touches, you do a promotional direct mail. You can send a magnet, send a calendar, market report. Now, your budget might not be for this. That's going to be expensive depending on how big your farm is, right? Or depending, I shouldn't say your farm, but how big your database is. Now, look, we don't want the entire population of Irvine in your database. That's not a database, right? That's a list. You can get that from the title company. What you want to have is a list of leads that are specifically your who you want to do business with. Now, remember, who you want to do business with owns a home and they live in your area. You can go in more deep than that. You can go owns a home, lives in your area. I don't know, break it up by age. Can't really say that too in depth because we don't want to discriminate against age, sex, marital status, and all those other protected classes. But you can go more deep into who you want to work with. But 2 touches of those, once in March, maybe once during the holidays, send out a calendar. 1 touch is an annual event, party, movie screening, or a get together. Remember, this is just your database. You're not inviting planet Earth, right? We're only inviting people in your database. So to put together an event, I do events often. So if you guys really think about this, for the people who actually, for those of you that know me, I do a lot of different trainings. I do this training. every training I do is meant to give you guys something of value, but I also use this for people who are my ideal clients to perhaps join the brokerage and see if they get value out of this. But it's an event. It's something consistently that I invite people to. Nobody gets mad at you if you invite them to things. If you really think about that, how often was the last time that you got mad at somebody for inviting you to a party way too many times? My God, Brett, stop calling me. No, I don't want to go to your stupid party. I might have fun. Okay, now as far as your contacts, you should be doing a 36 touch plan. Again, we have the 4 phone calls. Okay, that's the common denominator for your prospecting. 4 phone calls. Now, contacts, again, these are people you have two-way communication with. You should be touching them 26 times, bi-weekly, twice a month. Email offering some type of information or value to the consumer. Now, what I would recommend is that you could actually really break this down, how we talked about a monthly newsletter. You could do what I call a micro market report. And a micro market report is, we have these very, if you go from the macro level, you go from California, you have Southern California, you have Orange County, then you have Irvine, and then you have these various different master plan communities in Irvine, right? It's all the same no matter where you go. It's just, structured a little bit different. But what would happen if you chose 2 of the main areas that you want to focus on, and every other week you do what's called a micro market report, where you do a video or you put together some information that shares the current velocity of the market, new homes that came onto the market, new homes that sold, homes that may have come back onto the market. You can talk about interest rates. All of these things fluctuate nearly in real time, and it gives you an opportunity to stay true. Maybe one of those is going to be real estate informational purposes. Maybe another one is just going to be area information. Maybe you want to go out and actually do a newsletter that's the top 10 playgrounds in Irvine. I would bet you that would attract a lot of the people who have young families. And typically people who have young families are going to buy more than one house in their lifetime. Just some thoughts. But your contacts you're going to be treated differently. Do a 26 touch program. 2 touches of an events, get together, and parties. Okay, same thing. 2 touches. Events, maybe have a spring event, maybe have a fall event, maybe do pictures with Santa. I used to do a really big Halloween thing. I used to do a very big Christmas thing, have a Santa Claus come in and let people get their photos taken with Santa. Not a major expense. The biggest expense is just the venue and paying for Santa Claus to come. You can get somebody to do for photographs, but to do something like that, what's interesting is that now that we're in COVID, who knows if you're really sitting on Santa's lap? If you thought he was an imposter before, now he has a mask. I thought about that because we went to an event with my kids and everyone's wearing a mask. How do you know who it is? You're going to be going through these photos 15, 20 years from now, and you're going to wonder who everyone is because only half their face is showing. And if you're wearing a hat, all you can do is see their eyes. Like you're legit a ninja. It's like 2020 is the year of the ninja. That should be the zodiac. Okay, back onto the training. 4 touches. Promotional direct mail, such as a magnet calendar, market report. Again, this is expensive. And the bigger your database, the more expensive it's going to be. But the more that I was at one of our friends, and they live in Northwood Estates. And on their refrigerator is an agent's magnet. And I just thought that was peculiar. Not peculiar, but if you get a magnet with a calendar, if you get a magnet with a notepad on it, people use it. I don't. I mean, I don't have Ford. I don't have Mercedes. I don't have anything on that. I don't put bumper stickers on my car, but a lot of people use that stuff. But if you have a relationship with them, maybe if I had a relationship with people, I'd probably keep it. Actually, I do that. I still have like these pens, I know who they're from. So I actually hold on to the pen. But anyways, guys, to work your database, automate it, these are the 2 campaigns that you need to have. Now, it doesn't matter if your phone call, Brett, what do I say? Ask them how they're doing. That's it. Just make the phone call. You'll figure it out. The monthly newsletters or the bi-weekly, there, I already solved it for you. Write a newsletter. Don't copy a newsletter, right? Make it your personality. In fact, I would say don't do a newsletter. I would say do a video. If you're comfortable doing it, do a video. But these are the two breakdown of the programs that you could do that would be really great for you guys. I'm going to speed things up a little bit. Let's move on from here. This is more of a tech demo. So for those of you that have access to Command, there is a whole demo on this. I'm not going to break into this just because, I want to keep this training to an hour, but it does walk you through on contacts. Here, I can just hammer through these. Add contacts to your database. Now you should be adding your contacts into Command, or if you're not, then you should probably start migrating things into Command. The people who you're going to start adding into Command are your sphere of influence, the people who you know, like, and trust. Those are the people who you want to put in very first. And remember, at first, don't worry so much about the leads, right? Don't put all of Irvine in there just yet. Worry about your sphere of influence. Now, if you don't have a sphere of influence, which I think everybody does have at least to some degree, if you want to start over, it's gonna be slow going. But you should add personal contacts, your social media contacts, your coworkers, people that you're involved with in, your kids' school, PTA, sports things like that. Now, what do you do if you don't have all of their contact information, right? Hey, Brett, I want to put someone here. I don't have their phone number. I don't have their email. I don't have, maybe you don't, if all you have is their name, that's not a contact. But if you have one form of other, if you have their phone number, call them, ask them for their address and ask them for their email. If you don't have their phone number, if you have their email and you don't have their phone number or address, send them an email. If you have their address, drive by. Gosh, you know what, guys? I was hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I was driving by. I was showing some buyers. I was previewing some properties. Haven't talked to you in a while. Thought I'd stop off and say hi. Take your newsletter with them. I wanted to make sure, you guys are in my database. I don't have your email address, but I wanted to hand deliver this newsletter for you. I think you'll find some really information in here. Do you know what's going on? Is it important to you to know what's going on in the real estate market, about the equity of your home? You're being a person of service. Custom tags. I use tags all the time, like all the time. It's a way that you can actually segment your data. So you have a contact and you could segment that contact as a buyer. You could segment that contact as a seller, maybe as a rentor, first-time home buyer. It could be past client, a variety of twos. Don't just use your database just for names. Tag them for things, right? And you can tag them for whatever you want. Maybe you want to have a list of people who you think are going to sell within the next 60 days. You could tag them for that, so that every day you can just segment your database and look at it and say, okay, these are all the people I want to, that I think are going to do something next 60 days. You can have and the nice thing is with that, you can actually go back to here. Maybe because you segmented your database, you can have your own different automated plan just for those specific segmented in your contract. But again, if you don't have your database set up, if you don't have the system, if you're not using it, it's not going to work. So I jumped over Smart Views because I just talked to you about Smart Views, is that you can segment your database based off your tags and you can actually see everything in there. Now I want to talk to you about interactions. Once you have a contact in your database and you're having conversations with them, it's your job to qualify that lead and assess how motivated they are in buying or selling. Because again, we're in the business of selling real estate. And so if you have a database of just a bunch of people who don't own houses, then you're not going to do, I guess you could sell a lot of houses, but we're going to set this up right. So you want to make sure that the interactions are logged in your database, you're keeping notes of them, and so you can actually follow up appropriately. And we use that with these smart plans here at the end, right? So the smart plans you can launch, you can create your own. You know what's really nice about Keller Williams smart plans? Here's what's really nice about it is because the whole system is all Keller Williams, it's not just one branch and everyone's using their own. You literally have access to thousands of different plans that are being used across Keller Williams. Like you really don't need to recreate the will. You can go through these and just look through them, find one that you like, take it, model it, change it, make it your own, but you don't need to start from scratch. That's one of the great things about this platform as opposed to maybe a third-party platform. They'll give you some templates, but not templates that were created by people who are actually implementing these things in their business from across the country. So it's one of the great things is that you really don't have, it doesn't, if you don't like the way that they draft their emails or their text messages or something, you can change it and make it your own. You can throw in that video link or whatnot, but you don't have to recreate the wheel. If it's a 10-step program, you can start at step 6. You don't have to start from the very, very first creative spot. But I jumped over this part on the cultivate. I missed this on a slide. Oh, this one. Once you get to the database and you're interacting with them and they raise their hand, you get them into your sales pipeline. And now the job is to cultivate them. And to cultivate them, really it's called nurturing them, nurturing your leads. And the focus of nurturing those leads is to qualify those leads. To qualify them, to look and see if they're looking to buy and sell, how soon, what's their motivation, why are they moving, when are they wanting to move. But on the same token, it's one of those things that you also want to get your database up to whereas you can nurture them and then you can get that repeat and referral business. But as you go through the cultivation, and this kind of goes into the smart plans that I talked about, here's that slide again. When you're going through your smart plans, what you want to, the whole purpose of that is to stay engaged automatically. Now I want you guys to think about something. If you're contacting, this is kind of going back to my story about my expired listing program. And this is why maybe I'm such a dork when it comes to technology. You see, when you're talking to, let's just say 10 people a day, 200 people a month, and you talk to 200 people next month, and you talk to 200 people next month, you've lost control of that. If you're not writing things down, if you don't have a database, you've lost control. And that's what happened to me when I was new to the business. I was constantly only going after the 30 people who are looking to do something in 30, 60 days. And I completely forgot everyone who is 60 days plus, which was probably a lot of business if I would have just stayed in contact, if I just had that system. Now, I was a dumb kid. I was 24 years old. Name a 24-year-old that's really that smart in this day and age. But if in year one, you've generated 2,000 contacts and leads in your database, and you have launched these programs, chances are you're going to get another 2,000 the next year. Now, the truth be told, if you have 2,000 in your database and we're actually getting 6%, that's 120 transactions. It's a lot. Not a lot of people doing 120 transactions in this market. If you're doing 8 transactions in Southern California in Orange County, you're the top 10% of the active MLS membership. But you need to track them. You don't want to stay up. So anyways, cultivating, the whole point of cultivating is to get people to raise their hand saying, yep, I'm looking to sell. You schedule an appointment, you go on the appointment, you then take the listing, you get it active, you actively market the property, you generate a buyer, you put it under contract, you enter escrow, you go through your 30-day periods of doing all the inspections, all that good stuff, and then you close it and you get paid a commission. And the goal here is to do more than one. So what's going to happen is that after you close this deal, you're going to rinse and repeat. It's going to go right back up into your database, right into your contacts. So I've done a lot of talking up to this point. Now we're at the point to talk about ahas. Katya, what did you take from this? Did you take anything from it?
Yes, 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 yes. But I still need to understand how to have there still is all the dialing. There still is a lot to be putting together, but I can see that probably I can use command a little bit more than what I was thinking to do my marketing. So yes, this was very helpful. Thank you.
Good, good. What is the big what's the big blockage for you? What's your big challenge right now that you kind of see that's maybe stopping you? Is there one thing in specific
It's
that's
exactly what you said. Once you start cultivating the lead to make sure that you have something in place that follows through for you and you can keep calling and not getting lost
yeah,
because you had a listing. Yes, yes.
yeah. Good,
Exactly what you're saying. Yes, thank you.
good. Let's see. See, we got Duke, Russell, Laura, Matt, Annie. Any of you guys have any takeaways? Any ahas that you'd like to share? Got to
I
share
have one.
something. Who was that?
Can you hear me?
Say that
Hello?
again.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
Oh yeah.
What's up, Matt?
Yeah, I just like to see the frequency that we went over, and grabbing leads and then learning how to convert them as well. I don't want to be like dead leads. I want to learn how to convert them as well into
Oh,
prospects.
so you're talking about, let me go back to that slide. You're talking about the smart plans, right? The two breakdowns of the frequency of doing it. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's one
Yeah.
aspect of it, but I'm sure there's others as well.
You know, real estate sales, it's a very simple process, but it's the exact opposite of easy. It's not easy at all. It doesn't help to have so much competition in our space. But you know, if all you did every single day is just to take one step forward, that's it. You know, one step forward. In 30 days, I promise you, if we broke everything out just to get things started, if we took command, if we took, you know, getting your database, if we just took one activity and we turned that into a 30 point plan that one day, including the weekends, right? We're in real estate, so we do work some weekends, we do work some evenings. I still do it. But if we just break it down, like seriously, at the end of this day, sit down and write down the 30 things that you feel that you're just that's holding you back. And then break it down into a daily bite-sized chunk. What that does is that by January 14th of next year, you're 100%, you're 30 steps ahead of where you used to be. I think I have a, where can I download? So Laura asked, where can I download a copy of the Ignite workbook? You know, I'll get that sent out to you, Laura. I believe you can find it in KW Connect. I have no idea where it would be, but I will get that sent out to you. In fact, I'll send it out to everyone just to make sure that everybody has it. Great. So thank you for sharing those ahas with me. Let me kind of move into this next one. And guys, this is really just the breakdown. This is put in its most simplest form. Contact 10 people a day, 10 people a day. Now, coming up, I always said 20 people a day. That was always my goal. 20 people a day is 3 hours of prospecting. But if you did just 10 a day, that gets you 200 contacts a month. But on the same token, when, you know, actually, this is actually more along the lines of 20 a day, because if you're adding 10 new contacts into your database and you're having 10 existing conversations, that's 20 conversations a day. And if you're doing 10 handwritten notes to the people that you've talked to, and you're previewing 2 properties a day, 10 a week, you're going to get another one. Let's look at this, guys. If we made a commitment for the next 30 days and you just started right where you live, talking about previewing property, and all you did was just starting with your neighborhood and then going to the existing neighborhoods. I don't want you to drive anywhere. I want you to walk out in your house, and find the closest property that's for sale. Go walk by it, preview it. I would say create a video for it. But if you did that, I mean, how much time does that take? Go for a walk. None of us in a COVID environment are getting enough walking. It was probably true before COVID. It's really true now. But if all you did is over the next 30 days, you committed that 2 homes a day, right? In 30 days, you've done 60 previews, and even more if you follow my advice and you do a video review on that, that's 60 videos. That gives you credibility. Now, you're going to suck before you get good. It's going to be uncomfortable, but nobody said that things are easy. What's that saying? The quality things in life are never easy. I don't know. You guys decide. Anyways, I went a little bit over. It's 4:08. I'm doing much better on time today than I did the last go. I was late last go around and late last go around. Thank you guys. I won't get this out right away. Everyone, I'll get you guys out the workbook as soon as possible. That's sent out to you guys before the end of the day. But Wednesday is the next Ignite. I hope you guys are getting value from this. I enjoy teaching this. I enjoy training you guys on this, but just take it day by day. Put one step in front of the other, whether you're a veteran or whether you're new. If you don't have all of this down as a foundation, it can only make you better. So with that said, everyone, thank you. Oh, so it's on Wednesday. Tomorrow I'm doing the live objection handling at 8:30 in the morning. I am going to be going the Mike Ferry 40 real estate objection handlers between now and however long it takes me to get over the 40. So every single day over the next Tuesday and Wednesday, using conversational selling techniques, I'll be breaking down 40 different objections. I'd say it's like the 40 days to Christmas, but I should have started that like 20 days ago if I wanted to do that. But, all right, guys. So that's all I got. So
thank you. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.